I have a bit different approach to workbenches than most people, and you should know this right up front. A lot of people want to build a really nice workbench, and that's cool if that's what you're into, but I don't build workbenches to build workbenches, I build them to build other things, so I kind of consider them consumables. I don't want to worry about having to drill new holes if I want to move my vise to the other side, or getting paint on my work surface if I want to willy-nilly pour some paint into an upright. I don't want to have to worry about ruining my workbench because that's what it's there for. It's there to be ruined. But these tables will all hold up to many years of use, and if you want to make them look nice, I'll tell you how to do that too. I often get asked to translate my imperial, inch, I have been to the moon units into metric, and I try to do that often, but I'm not going to do it here because this all has to do with 2x4s and 4x4s and 8x4 plywood, which is all in inches. If you're doing this with some sort of metric wood, all your measurements are going to be different anyway. I've had this 4 foot by 4 foot workbench for several years, but I need to modify it. I need it to be 2 tables that are 2 feet by 4 feet so I can push them up against the wall and make room for a new workbench. A new workbench for my new super secret project. There are basically 3 ways to make a simple wooden workbench, and by that I mean there are 3 ways that I am going to talk about. In the description I have drawings, CAD models, and parts lists for all of these tables. The easiest way is how I made my 4 foot by 4 foot workbench. Get 2 4x4 sheets of sanded plywood, cut some 2x4s into perimeter squares, making sure 2 of them are shorter by the widths of the other 2. Do this twice and add some reinforcing 2x4s in the middle. Put 32-inch tall 4x4 posts in each corner, cut squares out of the corners of one of your sheets of plywood and drop it into the bottom layer, and then set the last sheet on top. The nice thing about this design is that it's super simple and super quick, and you don't need any special tools. You need some way to cut the wood and drive the screws, though you should probably drill pilot holes for your screws. Get some 2.5-inch screws and get the ones with Torx heads. Phillips head is not your friend. All the screws just go through the 2x4s into the other 2x4s and into the posts. You can also secure the top and bottom shelf down with the same screws. Another nicer way is to move your posts out of the corners and run your 2x4s into the side of your posts. This looks way better, especially if you move the 2x4s back slightly. Oh yeah, just like that. To do this, you need to drill pocket holes. Pocket holes are holes that allow you to run a screw from the side of a piece of wood and have it come out the end. These things are great, and this company makes several versions. I have one of the cheaper ones, and I definitely recommend it. Totally worthwhile, especially for a build like this. I'm going to do a third design that's not really the best way to make a workbench, but I want the side rails to be continuous down the whole length. That way I'll have a mostly straight surface the whole distance. It's wood, so it won't be perfect, but I should be able to shim the feet to get it flat enough without any discontinuities in the wood. The thing that is not great about this table is the way the legs are bolted to the top surface. This is not a very strong joint, and it could be a problem if I started pushing on the short end of the table. I can strengthen this with some gussets, but I still don't love it. I could inset the wood inside like I did on this table, but since I'm using 4x4s here, that moves them way in, and it's only 2 feet wide, so this has a much higher chance of tipping over. This new table is 16 feet long and 2 feet wide, which would be a great workbench size for the side of a garage, or if you were building a 20-foot long car that was only 2 feet wide, which would just be ridiculous. Anyway, I actually shortened this down to 15 feet so I could fit it in my garage and get my toolbox open. That means I have 3 sections that are 2 feet by 4 feet and one last section that is only 3 feet long. This means that these rails on the side are the full 15 feet long. Between them, I have 2x4s, which are 17 inches, making a really long ladder that's 2 feet wide. I pocket drilled these and screwed them in from the inside. I just used the garage floor to make sure the 2x4s were flush with the side 4x4 posts, but I had to go back and adjust some of them because my garage floor is not exceptionally flat. I added the legs all the way at the corner, pocket drilled and screwed them in from the inside. I also added legs in the middle. Here's another weird thing I did with this table. I doubled up the inside legs. I don't know what I'm going to do with this table when I'm done with this project, but there's a good chance I won't need a 15 foot by 2 foot wide workbench, so I made it where I can just cut the side posts in the middle and it becomes 2 shorter workbenches. I can also cut it at the outer legs and make 4 shorter tables and arrange them however I need. There is a cost to this since lumber is so expensive, so keep that in mind. With the legs on, I added the bottom shelf. Just screw in some 2x4s around the perimeter to support that and add a few crossbars. For the actual shelf, I got some super cheap plywood. I don't recommend this stuff and I'll probably replace it, but it's good if you've got a really tight budget. For the top, I use some birch plywood. This stuff is great, but also 4 times as expensive as the cheap stuff. I use screws in the top to hold this stuff down, but a lot of people will use double-sided tape so they don't have screws showing on the top. I don't care about this because I am going to add a top on top of my top. Remember how I said that I think of workbenches as consumables? Well, the most consumable part is the top. I have been using these whiteboards. They have some advantages, but also some disadvantages. They look really clean and nice when they're new, and you can use them to write down numbers or mark jig locations, but they're not very robust. They absorb fluids, and if you're working with them a lot, you go through them pretty quickly. A better solution might be some thin sheets of sanded birch plywood. In fact, if you want your table to look nice, this is one of the easiest ways to do it. Go get some 1/4-inch thick sheets of birch plywood and just sort of stick it around the outside of your table, covering all the plywood and 2x4s. If you have a saw that can cut at a 45-degree angle, you can cut the sheets to meet up around the top and sides for a continuous look, then find some durable outdoor stain and stain the whole thing, then you'll have a really nice looking workbench. If you want a tough hardwood top surface, you can buy butcher block countertops and tables from places like Home Depot or IKEA. These look great and they're pretty durable without costing too much. Be careful to get the ones that are hardwood all the way through. They do MDF cores for these sometimes. About the time I finished up this table, I started storing stuff underneath it, and I noticed that these Stanley small parts organizers fit perfectly between the end posts. So I decided to add rails to the end to make sort of a cabinet for them. These organizers are great. They're a little over 15 bucks each. They're good quality, and they have a shelf along the whole side. This means you can slide it along a ledge and have them all separate like drawers. I just cut up some 1/2-inch hardwood I had into strips and nailed them in about 2.5 inches apart. They each have this little chamfer to help slide the drawer in. Another cool thing about these organizers is that they sell deep versions that are twice as tall, so you can mix and match whatever you need. One last thing I have to do, and that's to make sure the top of the table is level and flat. I'm going to do that by putting this laser level on this tripod here and setting it up to where the laser is just above the top of the table. I already know it won't be flat because I know the garage is not flat. We already talked about this. So even if all of these legs are the same length, still not going to work. So with the laser just above the top of the table, I can go around to each leg and measure the distance from the top of the table to the laser I'll just use this book here. This is, what is this? Land Speed Racing Rules for Bonneville and El Mirage, whatever, I just had it lying around. So once I know that distance, I can take shims, wooden shims, and stick them under each foot to make sure the top of the table is flat and level. And there it is, a 15-foot long, 2-foot wide workbench for reasons that nobody knows. This video is not sponsored by anybody, and if you follow my channel, this probably won't surprise you. I'm not opposed to sponsorships. In fact, the few that I've had have been great, and if I find some great ones in the future, you'll probably hear about them. But I promise you will never hear about the terrible ones that are filling up my spam folder. I'm also going to start a Patreon. I support other channels through Patreon because they're doing awesome things, and I want them to keep doing awesome things. So if you want to sponsor the channel, help support projects like this next one, or any other weird ones that come beyond that, or just stupid gags like a drum set rim shot bit, click that link in the description. I'll have a chat channel and polls so you guys can give me feedback on the channel and I can try to make it better. And I know what you're thinking. Matt, you want us to give you money so we can help make your channel better? I'll also have a question and answer. You'll get early access to videos without ads. For the top tier, I will send you a thank you gift, which will be a part of my exploded motorcycle engine. And I know what you're thinking. Matt, you want me to give you money so I can help you throw away stuff that won't fit in your trash? Anyway, thanks for listening to my spiel. If you want to help out, awesome. If not, that's cool too. Thanks for being here either way. But as an added bonus, if you sign up now, you will be the first to know about my next project. It's been a closely held secret and nobody knows what it could possibly be. I'm building a land speed racing car. By the way, the Jag's not going anywhere. In fact, I just bought a ton of material to redo the inside. S600 also not going anywhere. In fact, I got a new engine for it. It's this one right here. Not this one, this one. Were we talking about a workbench? I feel like we got way off track here.